Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda today is the Honorable Judge Fahl. If you would, sir, come forward, and we've kind of implemented a new thing where if you could introduce yourself and state who you're representing so people that watch us on YouTube are getting all the information.
Well, outstanding. Where do you want me to, yesterday they kind of had me sit here. Do you want me to sit?
Yep, that would be great.
Okay. I've learned not to sit in those first two rows because my bald spot shows up on the camera. So, good morning. I am Judge Doug Fahl with the Superior Court, and I'm representing the Superior Court coming before you today. And just kind of get quick to the chase, I had a great flowery lawyer speech for you, but the bottom line is I'm swamped, I need a person, and I don't have any money to pay for it. So I'm coming to you to at least approach the issue, explain the issue to you, explain what I'm asking for. I can give you some brief background on how we got to this position, and then answer any questions you have, and then at that point turn it over to you and allow you to do your decision-making process, and whenever you're prepared, give me a decision. But what we have is we've had an increase, particularly in our criminal side. You do have a subject matter expert, but I will give you a little bit of background. We've increased significantly in our criminal caseload, first and foremost. The last couple of years prior to 2017, we averaged about 730, 750. We stayed right around in that area with the criminal cases. Last year, that exploded to 1,031, and this year we're on track to even surpass that. There are several reasons for that. The folks that are smarter than I am can tell you, but what I've seen is I've seen an increased number in cases, mostly revolving on the US 30 corridor, but that's not the only reason. We've also had a change in the legislature. As you know, and probably heard with the jail task force reports, that the legislature changed the statutes a couple of years ago and caused a lot of the cases that were normally in Judge Rentschler's court to now be in my court. And there are fewer and fewer people that are going to the Department of Corrections. They're staying local. So that's causing an increase in my caseload, not to mention the new arrests. On top of that, the state has required a lot more in terms of reporting. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of what's called an abstract of judgment, but at any felony case, a long abstract of judgment has to be prepared. In the past, we only had to prepare that in my court if we sent someone to the Department of Corrections. Now it's required of all felony cases, even if we don't. We've also had the advent of what's called a specialized driving privilege that wasn't available a few years ago. That's caused a significant increase in our paperwork load as folks within a case. So it's not a new case necessarily. And then on top of that, we've had an increase in what we call expungements. Those are items that did not exist 5 years ago within the criminal justice system that have caused an increase on my criminal court staff. The way the court works is every Monday morning we have change of plea hearings, which are scheduled, so we can control that. However, everything that comes in the prior week before and of course over the weekend has to be heard on Monday, or we have a constitutional requirement to get initial hearings done. Last Monday we had a relatively light day, but we still had 38 cases, and we're at the point where I'm hearing bringing cases up 2 at a time to get them through, so we are out of there by 5 o'clock. My staff has not had a lunch on a Monday, maybe twice in the last 2 to 3 months, because they have to get all those cases ready to be heard by 1:30. And so what I'm looking to do is add another assistant court reporter. Basically, my staff right now consists of a civil court reporter, which she handles all the collections, the foreclosures, small claims, civil plenary docket, and a criminal court reporter, and then a bailiff, and then I have one assistant then that helps all 3 of those. What I'd ask for is another assistant, and I could have that person cross-trained to continue to assist those other two folks, but be primarily to assist the criminal court reporter and most likely take over all the in-court duties, because Laura has to have those reports, those orders out by that Friday, or we start all over again, and then she gets behind. When I first came back, I had to authorize overtime because we were so far behind in getting those orders out, not because of lack of work, but because there were so many. And I've been fortunate enough, you all allowed me to move some money over. I've had a temporary worker that's been working for me 3 days a week. She's helped a lot, but those funds are going to expire at the end of this month. So we're getting to a point where we're just at critical mass with trying to keep up with the flow of paperwork. And I can see it in my staff. They're getting burnt out. They're getting frustrated and stressed. Again, I am as conservative as it gets. Don't believe in bloating the government just for the sake of bloating the government. But I'm asking you to consider the need and make the best judgment you think for both the taxpayers as well as for the court. But that being said, do you have any questions for me about
Judge,
anything?
with the economy as strong as it is the civil load easing up any? Are there less cases or not?
You would think that's a very good question, Jim. You'd think that it would be, but it's not. Particularly, I just took over mortgage foreclosures. The Supreme Court reviews our caseload and we adjust types of cases. I'm amazed at the number of foreclosures that we have. And the foreclosure has a great program now, but it requires my staff to immediately identify a foreclosure and then send out a letter, because folks have 30 days to mediate that. And if we miss that, then they could lose their home. But the answer to your question is we're not seeing any slowdown in collections, small claims, or any of the plenary docket. I would wish we did, and you would think that we would have fewer small claims, fewer collection actions, but I'm just not seeing it, and I can't explain that. I wish we would. Thank you for that question.
One of the things I guess is in my mind too is the salary that you're asking for.
Correct.
That is due to the requirements and the duties.
Correct. It's basically what I created is a mirror image of the assistant position that I have now. I took everything that currently occupied by Tammy, but she's leaving and I'm in the process of interviewing for that. It's the exact same position in terms of job description and salary as that current one. So if you can picture my lineup, so to speak, I have a civil court reporter, criminal court reporter, an assistant, and then I'd be adding a second assistant, and then I have my bailiff who works independently of those other four.
You don't handle any juvenile matters in your court, do you?
I do not. Thank goodness. I don't envy Judge Rentschler. That's tough duty.
With the caseload shift that you shared with us from Judge Rentschler, is that providing any wiggle room with his staff that could help with these matters?
I'm not seeing that. I've talked to Judge Rentschler, and his caseload seems to be rising as mine is. And when I spoke to Mr. Sigler, DJ, the other day about certain things, and he said that with the opioids, the cracking down on the docs, he said he had not filed a heroin case, maybe one heroin case in several years, but he's filed in the teens already in the last year. So I think there are other factors that are pushing that. And so we're actually seeing a heroin and more serious cases come through. But I thought the logic would tell me that his case would go down too. I think that that's one of the issues, but I think we're just growing. Kosciuszko County, just to put it in perspective, it's not just a Whitley County problem. Kosciuszko County just received approval to add a 5th court. They actually have 4 courts over there now. They have a circuit, 3 superior courts, and they just received, because they have increased as well, they're getting a full court, which includes a judge and 3 to 4 staff members. So it's not just us. Everybody's experiencing this increase. And Thor, you probably see it. I'm hearing from the state troopers, for some reason our marijuana smokers are flying down 30, where they used to do 45 and a 60, and just got to stay away from the Doritos. Now they're doing 75, 80 because of the increased THC levels, and they just feel that it's okay to smoke marijuana and drive. And so I think that cultural shift and the fact that neighboring states have allowed marijuana to be legalized has impacted that to a certain degree. Like I said, we've discussed it at length in the jail task force, and nobody can pinpoint one reason why we're seeing it. It seems to be a myriad of factors. But thank you for the question. Did I answer it okay?
Yeah, and then my second question would be, I've been in your office before. Do you have office space? What would you do with that?
Yes, we've worked, Judge Renshaw and I have worked diligently to, over the last year, our evidence room, without going on the record and saying it wasn't good, it wasn't as tight as we felt it should be. There's an office, if you recall, Thor, off my courtroom into right there in the very back corner. And we used that as an evidence room / storage facility for quite a while. We actually, with the assistance of the commissioners, built a smaller evidence room, consolidated the evidence, went through a lot of old evidence that we could destroy, and we created an evidence room with the proper logins and everything down in the first floor. And we've fixed that office space up, and that's all set up at this point. It has a desk, it has a phone line, and we now have authorization for a computer. So we have office space. That was a primary concern as well. Yeah, as you know, we're kind of stacked on top of each other in there. But we've worked hard over the last about a year to create that office space. It's a nice office, and you're welcome to use it anytime you come over.
No, I just know that the people you have working for you seem to be pretty crammed now, and that was,
It is. Our temp often sits at a file cabinet and has to kind of sit on the corner. But she's able, so it has always been an issue. But we try to correct that.
This take effect immediately, right?
Well, the ask is immediately. Obviously, like I said, I'm a realist. I sat in your shoes on the city council. What I wanted to do is get it in front of you immediately rather than put it off. If you feel that you can find a way to work it into the budget immediately, great. If you feel that you would rather wait until the new budget comes out, that's fine. I'm making the ask, telling you it's a need, and it's an immediate need, but I'm a realist as well. And you gentlemen, I trust your judgment to make what you think is the best decision for both sides.
Gentlemen, do we have the funds to do that? You're talking about putting in the budget, which obviously has to be, but that puts you until the first of the year before you get that person, if we go that route, just
Sure.
putting it on the next.
And that's why I, in addition to this, we received some great guidance from the staff, and Jana and Angie asked for the additional appropriation if you felt that it was if you felt that it was enough of a need. And I've asked for that additional appropriation for this year. But again, if I'm here asking, I'll take what I get.
So basically, you need half of this dollar amount, right?
Correct, sir.
As of 1st of July or whatever.
Yes, sir.
plus benefits.
Yes.
Would you be able to function the rest of this year with a temporary person, and if more money were approved for that,
I could do that.
until we can put it in the budget for next year?
I can do whatever you think is appropriate. If that's what you think is the best route to go, I'll work with it.
I don't know if I think that's the best route, because, I mean, obviously you want to get somebody in there and get them trained rather than use a temp, but
I think with, only needing half of that amount, I think it would probably be prudent if we just go ahead and say effective July 1st for half that salary, and then put it in the budget next year like we normally would. But I think it's prudent that he gets somebody. I think that caseload's going to back up some more if you don't do something about it soon.
I have to agree with Jim. I think it's a position that needs to be filled, and if we can put everything in motion for July 1st on it, I would be in favor of that.
Jim, if you want to make that a motion, I'll second it for you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the, not the 35,000, but 50% of that effective July 1st. When I say July 1st, Jana, I don't know how your pay period's, what date it comes on. I think you need to work that, maybe not just exactly July 1st, but with a pay period that's nearest to July 1st. It would be June 30, or if it'd be July 3rd, or
let's just make
whatever.
your motion to reflect starting in July.
Starting approximately July 1st, let's put it that way, in accordance with the pay period, how it works out.
I think she's going to tell us here.
I think Angie's going to get it, so.
You give me the pay period and I'll make it exact.
Fill the position.
If you make it the first pay period in
I'm filling Tammy's
July,
position right now, and
that
I've
would
received some
actually
very
start in
fantastic
June.
applicants.
What would be the first pay period in July, Jana?
I'm pulling Paul and Julie in to help.
It'd be the 1st through the
Good
14th.
applicants.
It'd be the 1st?
Yep.
Well, then my motion is for July 1st then.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second. I'll call for any further discussion. Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please respond by raising your right hand. And any opposed, the same, and it was passed unanimously by all members present.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, very much. I know that's not an easy decision to make, but I appreciate your support, and I welcome you to come over anytime. As I like to say, it's a lot more fun to come to court when you don't have to.
In a conversation that Judge Fahl and I had just a moment ago, he does have sufficient applicants to fill the position.
We just, as we're filling Tammy's position, the applicants I've received have been fantastic. It's going to be a much tougher decision, I think, to make on who to pick as the best candidate as opposed to, which is a good problem to have.
Well, you can pick two from them then.
There you go. And I certainly appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you all.
Next item on the agenda is Sheriff Gatton. Sheriff, if you could please come forward to the mic and introduce yourself and who you represent, in case anybody doesn't know.
I gotta get a little closer to Bill. Yeah, you defend yourself.
Morning, I'm Mark Gatton, I'm the sheriff, representing Whitley County Sheriff's Department. First item I'd like to start with is a pension request to you. Last year, dealing with McKeedy and Crean Incorporated that runs the deputy's pension at One America Company, they wanted to change the drop program, which is the deferred retirement option program that guys can join for up to 3 years. They found a mistake in it that the paperwork didn't get done, and in order for the drop to continue to be actuarially cost neutral as required in the text of the Indiana Code 36810-12.2-1, we recommend amending the retirement plan to redefine the calculation of actuarially increased monthly benefit resulting from the existing drop. In our opinion, the change we are recommending be made in the best interest of complying with the Indiana Code and the plan's retirement, the drop be actually cost neutral. So what I have is an amendment. Sheriff Hodges had amended or brought the drop program aboard, and the company now says that we're not in violation, or we are in violation of the code and not have. So what I have is the plan that they request. The only changes are in black.
Two of them in there.
Thor, I'll give it to you because you're the only signature that is needed, but I would recommend, or request, not recommend, I'd request that we make a motion to amend it to become in compliance with the statute.
Could you make copies of this for everyone, please? Mark, I'm gonna make copies for everybody to have. Somebody didn't sign this one.
The only signature, if it would pass, would be yours, mine, and the head of the mayor.
And I'm following you, but not exactly. So can you break it down and tell me exactly what this means and why and what you're asking us for and what the change is and what we're having to do to become compliant?
Yeah, he signed it.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't sign it.
You didn't sign it.
I would have to get back with Stan. I'm just going off what he sent, that we're not in compliant with the Indiana Code. But it's costing nothing, and it has to be, the drop program has to be a neutral cost to the county. A drop program cannot cost the county any more money in the pension plan. So that's what they're asking for, and it changes the percentage. I think, as it said, 0.6 or 6 on there, Thor.
Okay. Would it be appropriate, is this something that is urgent, or is this appropriate that we could read this and make sure exactly what it is and that I understand it before I sign it and pass it next month, or?
I mean, I would like it today due to the fact is, here's the one I actually signed last year for him that was just the 4 options, and that paper was not included, and Stan just recently emailed me and said that we're not compliant because they forgot to get that paperwork signed.
So basically, this is just a bookkeeping situation rather than any great changes.
Yeah, for the actual cost to be neutral.
And it's just getting us in compliance with the law.
Correct.
That's something we don't have a choice on, we have to do it.
Unless the pension plan went
Yeah,
bye-bye.
unless we change the pension.
So yeah, it should have been brought before the first of the year, but they wanted it the first year, but now we've kind of coasted, and that's why it says effective when you guys would approve it now. So we've kind of been under the old plan still, which hasn't affected anybody because nobody's retired.
Well, I guess since it requires my signature, that's where I struggle with it, because I don't fully understand what it is that I'm signing, and that makes me uncomfortable. So if I can sit here, maybe as you go through your next presentation and listen to you, but read this also, maybe I can sign it today, or maybe I'll want to put it, and I guess that would lead me to my frustration, not with you, but my frustration with when we moved the deadline to have information submitted for council for that 2 weeks before, because we were getting it in such short notice and then not have information. I appreciate the fact that you're on the agenda, but if this information could have been provided with the agenda packet, that would have made it a lot easier for me to have read that and
Maybe-
understood
I mean,
it
if you
ahead
want
of
to table
time.
it, or maybe I can give you Stan Brown, the guy that actually handles our portion of it for the county, and maybe you can speak to him, and I'm sure he could explain it better
Yeah,
than I
and,
could.
and I don't fully understand. I don't fully understand what I'm signing, and I want to make sure that I understand what I'm signing.
Well, I'll be honest, sometimes talking to him, Thor, I don't understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Thor, let me ask you this. Could we, if we prove it, give you the authority to sign it after you review it, and then that way we don't have to wait 30 days maybe? I mean, if you think it's, after you review it, that you'd go ahead and want to sign it without, or do you want us to give you a chance to come back and report? What would you prefer?
Well, I would leave that up to you guys. If you're comfortable with me signing it after I review it and you vote on that as a body, then
Well, I'm comfortable with that.
then I could sign it and return it. We wouldn't have to wait another month. But I'm not comfortable with signing it without fully
Do you
understanding.
want a motion, or do you just want to, so we just say you got the authority to do it? What would you prefer on that?
I think it needs to be a motion, a second, and voted on. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry, my copier's not functioning.
To me, it just looks like a house cleaning item that.
And it very well could be, but I
And
don't
I trust your
understand.
judgment if you're involved in this type of work and things, and I would trust your judgment. I guess I'd make a motion that we give you the authority to review, and if you feel comfortable in signing it, that you have that authority, and if you don't feel comfortable, bring it back.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, please? All those in favor of supporting that motion, please respond by raising your right hand. And it passes unanimously with all members present.
Thor, I'll email you with his information
Okay.
to contact.
And where, is this the original that he gave me? Okay. And is this the original, this is what you need signed?
That's just what he sent me via email, so I mean,
Oh, so you
it doesn't
printed
have
off
any
yourself?
signatures, so
All right.
whichever one, yeah.
I'll save this and hopefully I'll get it done today and get back to you.
Then you can explain it to the rest of us at the next meeting.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't understand it, so I'm not,
Yeah, some job programs
I
are a
don't-
little complicated.
yeah.
It is.
It's,
Next thing I come to you about is, I don't know the date of the next personnel committee, if Jody's job was gonna be looked at yet again, or if it has.
the Personnel Committee has met twice. We do have our next meeting is scheduled. The first two meetings have been structural, and we've got an agenda set for the next meeting to start looking at specific items. So the answer would be, Mark, we haven't got to that point yet, but we're fast approaching it.
Okay. And the only reason I'm asking is we have some IT work of rebuilding of some booking computers and stuff that either I'm gonna have to outsource or hopefully have somebody inside, so that's why I was just asking where that was at.
Yep, we're moving on it. It's just restructuring is taking a little bit of time.
The next things I'm gonna talk about are just, Thor, I sent you back somewhere around the 1st of March, the annual jail report that I have to give to the state. I don't know if you shared that with others, or,
I forwarded on email, I believe.
Well,
But
I
I don't
just-
think everybody has email, though.
I just came today to hit some of the highlights. Sorry it's this long, but March I wasn't available, and April, I guess I was on spring break, so that makes me not available to come to the meeting too. So, as Judge Fahl was stating, from 2016 to 2017, drug-related offenses of people getting booked into the Whitley County Jail went up 41.875%. In 2016, we had 640 people that came in on drug-related charges, and in 2017, we had 908. So that's been quite the increased load there, too. Failure to appears or failure to comply in court hearings actually went down 8.29%, so it's the first year I've seen that, but I would contribute that and hope it continues to some of the other programs we have with probation and community corrections that might be doing some effect. Big one that went up was resisting law enforcement cases here in Whitley County that were booked into the jail. It went up 92.85% from 2016 to 2017.
Say that again, please. Repeat that.
Resisting law enforcement, which it would, Thor, but for others would either be by physical, like John and I fighting, or fleeing in a motor vehicle. We went from 28 people being booked in that to 54. So,
That's a disturbing trend in itself.
yes. And on a positive note, we had a reduction of 35% on sex offenses, at least, booked into the jail last year. So, bookings, which include the original intake.
One question. Of those numbers, are they local or are they just people on 30 passing from Chicago or somewhere?
It's a mixture of both. I mean, I don't have the exact percentage.
But some of them are out-of-state people or out of
Yeah.
town, out-of-county people?
Yeah. Bookings, which include the original time they're arrested or any time they come back to serve time afterwards or a court hearing that we book in. Total persons booked into the Whitley County Jail increased from 1,139 people in 2016 to 1,570. That increase of 431 bookings, which averages one more booking at least per day in the jail. So. Inside the jail itself, jail incident reports, they wrote 1,296 jail incident reports in 2017. Back to the resisting, which some of those cases can be filed in jail. Chemical agent deployments, we'll call pepper spray, so you can understand. In 2016, we had 0. We deployed 0 times. In 2017, we deployed chemical agents inside the jail 24 times.
Is that due to the same people, same training, or have you changed your training or had new people, or is it just an evolution of how is best to handle people? Or what do you attribute that to?
That's probably some of it, though, in the training. As you know, they've changed. Sometimes we don't taser deploy as quickly as we did in the past in the jail, and we use chemical agents, which is...
So these numbers are probably getting back to maybe where they were before we started using tasers.
Yeah, I would still say they're a little higher than what they used to be, but the jail staff tries their best before we deploy any chemical agents due to the fact of the decon inside the facility itself we have to do afterwards. Taser deployments went up from 6 to 25, and the restraint chair usage went from 30 up to 98 times it was used. And the inmate altercations went up 42%, 21 to 30, so. The only other thing I really want to hit on, and it's been written on the past reports every year, is we've had issues with the washer and dryer that does all the inmate clothing inside the facility. Been wanting to replace it for the last couple of years. Just last week, with the help of Sean, we secured that. We're going to be changing to industrial size, which they are, the other ones are, but we're going to 2 washers, so if one goes down, we can still do. But that's going to be about $23,000 for those machines, and I'm going to pay that out of commissary.
Hey, let me ask you a question. To send laundry out, how expensive is that?
I don't have any clue. Jim, I've never looked into that. Do you mean in the evening?
Like you send it to a firm that does that, I mean, I have no idea what that would cost.
I don't either. We would just need more clothing because when we switch out, that clothing that we do of theirs is done that evening and back into their cell block by the time they come back out in the morning.
Well, I don't know how easy it'd be to check on that, but I don't know whether that'd be cheaper or not, to not have to, number one, you don't have anybody has to do it, and number two, you don't have anything to maintain.
Right. Number three, we do clothing exchange at 11:30 at night, so I don't know who's gonna grab it right then, so.
How much money do you have in your commissary fund, Mark?
Right now, I think it's right around 90 to 100,000 last time I looked. So I'll be spending 23 for that, and then, will we spend about 20, Jason, on car installs with lights and installations? So I'll have 3 cars to do.
I appreciate your use of your commissary plate.
It's kind of like my fallback on if I
Right.
can't get something to use it for, so.
I appreciate that.
The next thing, Janelle, you want to come up? She's just going to talk a little on the increase in dispatch numbers.
Again, Janelle, if you could come up and introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are representing, please. Don't mean to kick you out of your seat, Sheriff.
Janelle Schmidt, Communications Director for the Sheriff's Department. I did stats 2016, 2017, and where we are to April 30th of 2018. 2017 over 2016, we had an increase of 20.78% in our incoming calls. 2016, we answered 75,232 calls. Of those, 10,036 were 911 calls. 2017, we answered 90,868, and of those, 10,584 were 911. We also do text to 911, so anybody out and about can text us to let us know that they have a problem. And we can text them as well. So 2016, we had 175 text sessions. 29 were initiated by a caller, and 146 were initiated by us. We initiate one when somebody hangs up from a cell phone or they pocket dial. If we can't get them to answer the phone, we text to see if they have a problem and they need help. Last year, we did 120 text sessions. 30 came from a caller and 90 by us. Total calls for service, and I took 3 police departments, so this includes the Sheriff's Department, South Whitley, and Cherubusco. We dispatch for them, and 9 fire departments. 2016, we had 16,622 calls for service. Last year, we had 17,511. And to date this year, we are on track to increase 15.15% on our incoming calls, if it keeps going. Any questions?
The increases, is there anything you can attribute this to? Increased police officers out working?
Yes, we, in the last, I think, 2 years, how many deputies have we gotten in the last couple years?
We haven't got any.
We've replaced. Okay.
Are these calls that are coming in from the public, though? This wouldn't necessarily be
This is everything.
pushed by deputies, would it?
This is-
Or is this, are you considering a call of a deputy
Officer
call?
initiated,
Okay. I
Yep,
gotcha.
this is everything. Cherubusco has, I think, 1 more officer. South Whitley the same. Usually they're in the school, but they do generate reports as well. So not really anything attributes to it, other than, it's increase everywhere.
Thank you, Janelle.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the last thing, which I spoke on it yesterday because Jody wasn't available and I'm not near as good as she understands it, but hopefully I can leave you on a positive note. Jody, you want to come up? This is on the DOC inmate billing. of money that they owe the county, and hopefully the projected amount that might, well, it will be returning to the county, but their pace is a lot slower than we're used to.
It's a two-sided page.
And Jody, if you could please start by introducing yourself and
I will.
who you represent for all our fans on YouTube.
Thank you. My name's Jody Hollenbaugh. I'm the office manager, kind of do IT. Back in 2016, the sheriff and the jail commander met with the jail inspector, and he told us that we were allowed to bill the DOC for level 6 felons. So I went back. It took about a year to go back over all the records. There were, let's see, 4,039 booking records that I went over and identified the ones that would qualify to bill to the DOC for level 6 felons. And there's certain criteria that have to be met, and I kind of explained it briefly in here, but it's kind of complicated. But on the back, you can see I've just started billing the DOC, and they're starting to process them. And to date, I have billed them $779,415 just on the level 6 per diem. It's $35 per day per inmate that's sentenced and meet the criteria. Of that, they have processed, we have not got all the money, but they have processed $189,700. They've denied $61,320, and we have $528,395 pending just for the level 6 per diem. That does not include the medical. They cover 100% of the medical if they're a sentenced level 6 felon. We have to pay it up front, and then they will reimburse us. And we just had 2 inmates that qualify for that just had surgery, that I'm just now starting to get the bills
That would
for.
be substantial
Yes.
as well.
Yes, no, our medical company does reprice them, like the one I got the bill, the hospital bill was $55,000, and they reduced it down to just under $5,000. So we'll pay that, and then we will get reimbursed by the DOC.
That reimbursement we get, does that go back into the general fund?
Yes, it does.
What's the reason for denial?
It goes back to what Judge Fahl was saying. The legislature said you can no longer send any level 6 felons to the DOC. Cannot sentence them unless they meet these certain criteria. And they said, as a result of that, we will allow you to bill the DOC for it. So the state will pay for us housing them.
Yes, but your question was about the denial, right?
Yeah, the denial.
Oh, okay, well, early on, the criteria were extremely strict. It could only be for 90 days. It has to be, several criteria have to be met. They have to be sentenced to so much time. And I just threw everything at them. I wasn't going to go through and count the days. So I know early on they were going to deny a bunch. I just wasn't going to sit there and figure out how many days were billable. I just threw everything at them, let them figure it out.
Sure, if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it.
Right.
That's a pretty sizable amount of money coming back into the general fund.
Absolutely.
One quick question for you, Mark. What's our jail population running at this point?
No, I haven't looked today. At the end of last week, we were approaching 140.
The last few weeks, I've been calculating the percentage of billable, and we've been running 22 to 25% of the inmates that are at the jail are billable to the DOC.
How's our jail task force coming along?
Moving forward, that's what I see is moving forward. A lot of work yet to decide the final, but they sent the draft to be read through, and we have a meeting coming up on it.
I just keep wondering how long we can keep that many people and they're not be in trouble with the state.
No. Don't have that answer for
Well,
you.
I know you don't, but
We have our inspections coming up in July again, so he'll be back and we'll
we
see
could be in
what
a
his
sudden
demeanor is.
big hurt.
In talking with other sheriffs and other facilities, Mark, how many of the 92 counties are in the same position we are.
I don't know the exact numbers, but there are a lot of people in non-compliance with the population requirement.
I mean, it's nothing that we're doing wrong, it's just a product of,
Yeah, the people that are getting sentenced in the level 6s that we can't get rid of.
yeah.
It's gonna get worse.
Is that why you're leaving?
I'm afraid.
Is that why you're calling it quits on it?
No.
Just so everybody knows, they're slow on the billing, as you can see. We're back in 2016. I talked with Christopher Judy a while back, which I forgot to tell the commissioners yesterday, and he says if we have trouble, we would be more than happy for his office to help assist with this.
And I know I got an email from the one lady that does the most of those. She quit, so the DOC, just last week.
So without a date of when this might, I just wanted to let you guys know that this would be coming and going into the deadline.
Appreciate that.
About $30,000 a month, give or take, so.
Any little bit helps.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask council for permission to deviate from the agenda, and I would like to call Jill Snyder, representing DFI, next.
Yes.
If I can have the council's approval for that, please.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, we are going to go out of order here with a vote from, or a tentative vote from the council, and Jill, if you would, please come forward for us. Introduce yourself and who you represent, please.
I'm just, I represent the
A lot of money.
drug-free.
So basically, I hope you have, do you have?
I printed mine off the.
Okay.
I don't have
So we received money through court costs, and then that money, there was a grant application process that we have, and then the grants are either approved or not approved. They are looked over by the state of Indiana. So what you have in front of you is what was asked for and what was granted with your permission. That's it.
Having served on some of the committees with DFI in the past on it, if my memory serves me correct on it, this goes before a committee with DFI. It's approved there, and then it goes before the general board of the DFI. They approve it there, so we're actually the third approval
That's correct.
of this particular situation. It's no additional monies costing the county on it. We're basically just approving what the committees and DFI has approved in the past. And it breaks down in enforcement,
Education and treatment.
education and treatment. And they divide that money, I wouldn't say equally, but as the need is.
Correct.
So with that being said, I'll make a motion that we approve the DFI request for their budget.
Call for a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I would call for any further discussion at this time. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion made by Councilman Barrett, please respond by raising your right hand. And it's passed unanimously with all members present. Thank you. Okay, back on track then. On the agenda will be Brandon Forrester, please.
Good morning, my name is Brandon Forrester. I'm the county engineer here representing the highway department and engineering. And I guess I'll apologize for the sizable packet that you received, but there's a lot of requests and needs, and they're all kind of interrelated to a certain extent. But the bottom line is requesting additional appropriations for line items that were in the red because of winter operations, prior commitment for Liberty Mills project, Liberty Mills 900 South, 800 East, joint project with Whitley and Allen County, requesting an additional employee, requesting additional money for stone, bituminous, road improvements, and cold mat wedging out of both highway and local road and street, and requesting money for the construction of a salt storage facility. I don't know if you want me to go line by line, item by item, if you want.
Is there anybody on the council that is not familiar with the presentation that Brandon has already given us, or have any questions about what he's requesting today?
I don't have any questions, and I looked over, that's a pretty in-depth report you give us on your money. Isn't it?
I'm not
Yeah, I've read it.
going for a package deal here, Jim, I'm saying.
I just got a question for Don.
Okay.
Don, in reference to the storage, salt storage facility, has the commissioners had any suggestions on that, or have you dealt with that at all?
Favorable pass to the council. It looks like there's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. There's no property taxes to be used for this. It's all from gas tax and others. But I think where we're going to see the savings is down the road. He can now purchase salt for an entire year or longer. So it's an economy of scale. I mean, but we did have a favorable pass.
Refresh my memory, on the building itself, you had the funds for that already? I mean, within one of your accounts for the building?
Not budgeted.
No, but it's in your account. The money is already available in one of your accounts, wasn't it?
That was out of one of the accounts that you had to spend it and then you get reimbursed.
Well,
Right?
we received money from the Community Crossings grant, and, depending on how you want to juggle the dollars.
But you're not looking for additional funding, you've got it within your funds to pay for the
Yes.
building? Wasn't that the way you presented it last
All of
month?
the requests that I'm asking for today, everything comes from either the highway budget or local road and street. I'm not asking for one penny from county general or CEDAT or any other funding.
Well, I thought that's the way it was, but I wanted to just
Right.
have you tell us again.
And, the money, cash balance as of, yesterday was over 900,000 in the highway fund. And it was 344,000 in the local road and street. And that 902, 939, 25 in the highway. 446, 096.91 in local road and street. So, and that's, every month we receive revenue for those funds that comes from the gas tax.
I was gonna say, you still got more money coming throughout the year.
Absolutely, every month. And that money has increased, the monthly revenue has increased, I got too many papers, $100,000 a month in highway funds. Here it is. This would be sheet 22 in your packet. $101,731.80 increase over the last 7 months, where we've received the full increase of the increase in the gas tax that took effect in July. 22,000, almost 22,400 a month in local road and street. So, Vice Chairman Banks asked me, with this request, when it would be paid off based on, the projected revenue at the increased level. If we were to spend every penny that's been budgeted for this year and every penny that I'm asking for additionals, obviously we would go in the red, and in November, we would be back in the black, and by the end of the year, we would be cash page at $640,000. I'm not anticipating spending every penny, and it won't happen tomorrow. It's going to be throughout the year, obviously. But the good news is that the money is there. The revenue's not going to stop. People are still going to buy gas, and we will be also getting an additional $200,000, almost $202,000 from the community crossings.
The other thing is it doesn't affect the general fund at all.
Not one penny of this request is from the general, including benefits for the new employee. In fact, I'm not even asking for any money for the benefits because there was enough money budgeted with the approved budget to cover retirement and insurance and Medicare, Social Security.
Brandon, what's the amount that was, hey, you have to pay for that crossing? Wasn't there a balance due on that, or?
The community crossings?
Yeah.
Actually, there's two different possibilities with that program. What we did was they call force account work. And so it was, all we did was purchase materials, which was the liquid asphalt that we use for our chip sealing operation. And the money that we've received already, which is $468,000 and change, that was a reimbursement for money that we spent last year. And so then we've also, it was a 2-year project that we proposed, so we will get another $202,000 reimbursement later this year for work that we do this summer, for a total of $670,000. And that $670,000 is in addition to the surplus funds on this sheet. It shows $1,059,000 surplus funds. You can add $670,000 to that because the community crossings grant money that we're receiving is not included in those numbers. So, we're healthy financially. The revenue is increased. The community crossings grant, obviously that helps. That $670,000, that pays for the salt barn and a lot more. Basically about 2/3 of the request before you today.
In relation to that salt barn, you had mentioned the amount of money we could possibly save by buying our salt, ahead of time.
Well,
you really know about that?
Amount of money that we can save and frustration and risk. Because we only have the capacity to store about 400 ton right now. This building would give us the capacity to store about 1,500 ton, and that's about what we used this last winter, which was a busy winter. We had a lot of small storms, and basically, it doesn't matter whether we get 1 inch of snow or 6 inches of snow, we've still got to treat the roads. And we had a lot of basically small events this winter. But because of our ability to store salt, we weren't able to commit to a large amount to purchase. And after we ran through what our commitment was, we were having to try and find it on the open market, and we were paying about 50% more. Originally, we were buying it at $56 a ton. We ended up having to pay $90 a ton because trucking companies had to go to Ohio, actually up to Toledo, to get salt for us. Of course, the demand was huge out east with the blizzards they had, and So,
I think the big picture here is that we will never probably realize a cost savings just on what we save on salt. I think that's part of it, but it would take us 20 or 30 years to make up that difference if that's all we're basing this decision on. And it's not. We're basing it on convenience, we're basing it on the building as another asset to us, we're basing it on having the supply there and available when you need it, and we're basing it on being able to stockpile it during a time when we don't have to worry about not being able to find it.
right. And another big thing with this is the building that we're currently storing salt in is a metal building not constructed to store salt. And the building, the doors are rusting away currently. And, you know, we've purchased some new equipment to do some new things, and we're out of storage space. We really need that space to store equipment rather than salt. So there's
So it's going to be good space for you for other use.
absolutely.
The biggest thing that stuck out in my mind with the packet was you had in here 2 quotes for the building. And the difference in price. Now, one of them talks about, the cheap one says using Douglas fir, and the other one is over double the price, but it doesn't really say what they're using for material.
Well, what I've got for the building as far as prices is just, that's just from one company, just engineering consultant. Douglas fir, yeah, we've worked on the specs of, with this consulting engineer that would, ultimately, they would be the ones that would certify the plans, you know, have to be go before the state for permitting and stamped by an Indiana engineer. And they're, this company works with the material suppliers, and so we worked with them on specs. I run the specs past our building inspector. Kevin and I both looked at them based on what we, you know, need, and we have specs ready to actually, the commissioners, pending approval today of funding, we're ready to advertise for this. To get bids, I mean actual bids. What I presented was just an estimate, based on their experience.
So the cost will be the combination probably of both of those, are you saying?
Well, you've got the material cost. The material cost, they estimated at $164,200.
Okay.
And then the construction, based on their experience, would be about 125% of the materials, so that would be 164,000, or I'm sorry. What they did is they took 2.25, one for the built material, 1.25 for the installation at 369,000, and so they said 400,000 just for budgetary purposes. I added 30,000 on that because their estimate did not include the floor, or we plan on putting a concrete approach because we're going to have loader in and out turning, and so we need a durable surface to maintain, and so I added another 30,000 for the concrete floor and approach.
What about other maintenance things down there that we need to do?
I'm working on that, and that came up with all these discussions, because one thing that we've talked about is doing something with the roofs on 3 of those buildings. When you drive by, they're rusted. Nothing's been done for years. I've looked at 3 different options with that. There's a spray-on rubberized treatment, and I had several contractors interested in quoting us on that. I had 3 or 4 quotes, and you're looking at about 60 to 75,000 for that. So out of curiosity, Kevin and I were talking, and we're thinking, well, how much would it cost for a new roof? So we had a contractor give us a quote to remove the existing and make repairs if necessary and put a new metal roof on those 3 buildings. And that came in at about $65,000. And just the other day, Monday evening, I to look at a third option, got a quote from a contractor to just treat and paint. You know, they would have to do some power washing and use some special treatments of those same 3 buildings. That come in at $20,000. So you can paint it for $20,000, or you can put new metal for $65. And I only have one quote on that, but I put money in the budget for capital improvement to do something with those roofs. So I'm not asking, I'm still planning on doing something, you know, and that's money's in the budget.
That's pretty much the only thing, big item that needs to be repaired down there.
That's the most urgent, yes.
Then like next year, you'd probably be looking to maybe do some work on that existing salt storage building probably. When the other one's built, you've probably got some things you need to do there.
Yeah, probably a new overhead door, and possibly even, you know, paint the other buildings. We paint or put new roof on those 3 buildings, and the siding's gonna get real ugly.
You put those things in.
It's old, faded, oxidized paint, you know.
Do you put those things in your budget request?
I would put that in the budget request for next year, yes.
Thor, what is your consensus on how to proceed with this packet? And we want to go through item by item on the additional appropriations and discuss it? How would you like to proceed?
I don't feel that we should lump it all together and go with a vote. I think we should go item by item. And if that prompts any further discussion or questions from any of the members here, those can be addressed at that time rather than something possibly being overlooked. So Brandon?
Not that long enough to look them all over.
Right.
I mean, I don't see any reason not to make them en masse. I move we approve the entire packet.
Well, I look at it as an opportunity too for people who are not familiar with what all is being asked for, and people who watch and want to understand what's going on. This gives a level of transparency on what exactly Brandon's asking for and what we're approving if we go item by item, and I don't think that it'll take an unappropriate or inappropriate amount of time to do that. But
I agree with Thor. I think it gives you an opportunity for questions on each thing as they come up, if there are any. Not that there will be, but it gives us an opportunity to ask a certain question on a certain portion of it.
But I respect your motion, and if there's a second to the motion, then we can vote on it that way, but that's just my thinking.
We didn't get a second. I just feel like we've had it long enough and have had the opportunity to ask the questions, and I was done. But
Okay. The concern I have that hadn't been addressed yet,
I don't have a problem with that.
and we'll just address this now, is on this drainage project assistant position description. Is this a new job description that's been put together?
This is a new job description, yes.
And who has this been vetted or approved by? Or is this just something you put together?
I put it together to present it to you, to the council.
So I'm not sure that we're not in position at this point to approve a new job description title without it went through the personnel committee or being analyzed by whatever group or organization that we use to change job descriptions. That's not that we won't approve a position for you, but we're not going to approve a new position. So if you've got somebody if you request for a position for a equipment operator or a truck driver, and then you've got somebody in that position that you can start training or put in the position for these duties, that would be appropriate. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Not very. I don't get it. The commissioners did a favorable pass on this position to the,
But it's not, and with all respect, it's not the commissioner's decision to make.
we're just telling you, we thought it was.
Right, and,
You're right,
and,
you're right.
but we had a personnel committee that George sets on the other day, and we came, we've not established yet, Don, that we're creating new or changing job descriptions. So we're not ready to do that. And
So it's
that's-
a definite maybe. Well, because you need to go through the personnel committee and everything, right? That's a program.
Any job
That's a
description changes have to, yes, before,
That's-
well, no, they don't have to. When it comes to this committee, you guys can pass it. You guys can pass it. We can pass what he's asking for.
Well, I'd like to see the Personnel Committee make a recommendation on it. I mean, we established that pattern, and I just think it'd be appropriate. Do you think that they would meet by the next month, that we could approve the position next month?
I think we can approve the position now without a change in job description. We can approve the hiring of a person if you're requesting to hire an additional employee, because what you shared with us before, I wasn't aware that you were changing any sort of a job description, Brandon. That conversation didn't come up unless I missed it. I thought you were hiring a new, I don't want to say entry level, but a new equipment. I thought you were requesting equipment operator so somebody could transition to helping the person that's doing the drainage issues now because they're overloaded, that somebody could be part-time this and part-time that. So I didn't know you were asking for a new job description.
That's kind of been my thought in the process. There are a couple of guys down at the highway now that I believe could do this job that I'm proposing. But I haven't made that step until I get approval for a position. Now, if I can, move someone in-house into that position, then obviously I would have a hole to fill, be it a truck driver or an operator. I would have to, replace that person. But that was my thought.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought he wanted to hire a truck driver and then occasionally loan him to the.
And that's exactly the point I'm making with this new job description, is that was the understanding that I was under through the entire process too. I didn't know that there was going to be a change in a job description, or we'd have had this conversation maybe earlier as far as, this is a surprise to me today, Brandon. I didn't know that you were changing a job description, I'm sorry.
Well, it's a surprise to me today because I didn't know that. I'm sorry if I didn't communicate that I wanted to
Well, I just thought
create a new position.
you were just gonna loan your employee to the
Well,
department. So we're hiring a truck driver, basically.
For the duties that I'm proposing for this position, I can't just pick any one truck driver to go. It's not just someone to go, run a shot rod. It's someone that will be, performing some of these duties that are in red, that are the duties that were taken from our field man's job description.
Can you tell me where this position falls in your request for the additional appropriations?
Yes, it is, it's on page 4, under personal services, the 66059, which, based on the discussion with the judge's new position, it wouldn't be that much. But it's also on page 6 then, which is the breakdown by line item, the drainage project assistant, that 51059, which would be half of that, because it would be for 6 months, not an entire year, is what I'm requesting at this time. That we can get this position filled, so we can start using this person as soon as possible.
Would you expect to be able to hire somebody for a drainage assistant, drainage project assistant, or do you think that that's going to come from somebody inside gaining a little bit more training and knowledge and then hiring somebody to take their place?
That was my thought.
Okay, and that was my thought all along too. That was my understanding, so that's the reason I guess I didn't understand that there would be a new job description that would be presented to us. I thought there would be that transition, and then that person would be evaluated, that once they gain that knowledge and they've come to that level, then that would be looked at being changed then.
Well, I mean, and the transition and the additional training of that person would be everything that's in red in this job description. That's above and beyond. I took the equipment operator and added. I didn't take anything away from the operator position, because in my mind, this person would, be operating a backhoe, a skid loader, other equipment, plowing snow in the winter, and then, running the surveying equipment and dealing with landowners and contractors and, in addition to their other, equipment operator duties. So, I mean, I think we're on the same page, other than the creation of a new position, or how we look at that, I mean, I saw it as a new position with a new job description, but you're absolutely right. It was my intention or thought that we would transition someone into that position. But I can't do that without,
I think I would be in support today of approving a new equipment operator
okay.
to get that underway and to get that started, but then the additional funds and the change of the job description is going to have to go through a process.
Okay, well, and I understand that.
Well, that answers my question. I approve the position too, but if there's gonna be a new job description, it needs to go through proper channel.
And at the time I started this process, the personnel committee was just getting started. I had talked to a couple people, and the direction I was given by whomever was, bring it, the council would, until the personnel committee was established and procedures had been established, that it was the council's, up to the council's discretion. So that's why I did what I did, not to try and circumvent.
No, ultimately, you're exactly right. Any decision that goes to committee, ultimately, the council, the full council, is going to make the decision on it. The committees are just simply smaller groups, exploratory groups, or workshops to gather information and to provide information to the other council members. But bringing something straight to council, or once it makes its way to the council itself, you're exactly right. It is a council decision. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your knowledge of that, but I guess there was just some miscommunication on exactly where we were all at on what you were asking for.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, my apologies for that, but I'm willing to do whatever, I understand process.
For example, the amount that he has down here for the wages might be up or more or less, depending on how that's evaluated, doesn't it?
What are the, well, yes.
Yeah.
What are the entry level, or what is the pay for an equipment operator?
It's about 46.
So we're talking about a $5,000 difference or $6,000
Well,
difference.
and that salary is the salary of our field man in engineering, which is higher because of, obviously responsibilities and duties. I really ultimately figured it would fall somewhere in between there, but just to make sure I was covered with whatever was, however, if, for the job evaluate, or the description evaluation and factoring or whatever process, I didn't figure it would be above the drainage field man, but I figured that it should be somewhat above the operator, because it's basically an operator position with additional duties. That was my thinking, and that's why I asked for what I did, fully expecting that it would come in at less than that, but.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that there should be an adjustment there. It's just that we're not at that point with an unapproved or unvetted job description.
Right.
To make that, but as we've discussed, I would be in favor. Jim has said he would be in favor, and we can put it to a vote as far as approving the equipment operator, and then you can transition as far as identifying and starting a process amongst your equipment operators that you have now on who you would train to move into that assistance position in that time frame. Then hopefully we can get some work done with Personnel Committee and look at job description and look at a pay increase for that position, so.
Okay.
So we need to backtrack a little bit and go down through his additional appropriation request and go select to page 1, assess what page 1 is, approve that, and then go to page 2 for his additional appropriation, page 3, page 4, and continue on that way.
I think for a clear understanding, I think there's only 2 pages, though.
Pages 4, 5, and 6 have the actual additional appropriation by highway fund and local road and street. Page 6 gives the breakdown by fund.
Let's look at page 4. On page 4, the personnel services at $66,059 that you're asking for is a reflection of what?
And that's broke down on page 6. That would be the request of 51,059 for the drainage project assistant
So
or
what's
equipment
the-
operator.
What's equipment operator's annual
And then
salary?
15,000 for overtime, and that's because the overtime budget, the budget is currently in the red. So I need money to get it out of the red, and then I need money to pay for the rest of the year to pay the guys that are on call. And so that's, I asked for an additional 10,000 for overtime, so, that's where the 66,059 comes from.
And your base pay for equipment operator is what right now, please?
It's 43,976.
40, no,
For an equipment
For-
operator?
The truck driver
it's
is
46. You looking at higher end or base?
Give me a person's name that you're
Yeah.
comparing it to.
Mike Puckett,
3.
okay.
So if we change that to 58,976 instead of the 66,059, that would reflect replacing an equipment operator and the $15,000 that you requested for truck driver overtime. 58,976 for personnel services. And then the 355,000 that's also on that resolution would be for the $100,000 for stone and gravel, $195,000 for the
Bituminous.
bituminous, and the $60,000 for sodium chloride, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I would call for a motion in support of passing that appropriation resolution ordinance.
I move we approve it.
You gonna go back to the 4,000 account then, where is capital improvements? Because I got a question about that, we're not improving that in this.
No,
motion.
all we're doing is approving this.
A
What's
second.
been, so I have,
You need a second, right?
John seconded it.
Okay.
I think.
So Jim made the motion and John Barrett on the second. Any further discussion?
Can I ask for clarification? Is that on the personal services and supplies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everything on page 4, with the change of the 66,059 to 58,976. Oh, and the capital outlays is on there too, I'm sorry.
That's for the salt building.
Okay,
If you want, excuse me, but if you wanna try and fix a roof too, you get 400,000 for the salt building,
I've got money in the budget to fix the roof.
it's okay, good enough.
so I need to back up and ask you to withdraw your motion because I didn't see that on the bottom line capital outlays. Okay, so.
Withdraw also.
So it has been withdrawn. Also on this resolution ordinance, there is a $430,000 request for capital outlays, and that is for the construction of the salt barn, correct?
That is, yes, for
Okay.
material and construction.
What does
So-
that total fund come out to?
It would be, give me a total on that, but it would incorporate the personal services of hiring a new employee and the overtime pay for the truck driving category of $58,976. The total on the supplies of $355,000 that I read through, and then $430,000 appropriated for building the salt building, and that comes to a total of
$843,976.
How much?
$843,976. So it'd be different from what you have in front of you on page 4 of the $851,059. It would be changed to $843,976, and that's what I would ask for a motion for then.
I move we approve it.
I'll second again.
So I have the same motion, people with the motion and second. Any further discussion on those items? All those in favor, please respond by by raising your right hand, please. And it is unanimous with all members present. And then that takes us to the second ordinance, resolution ordinance of supplies of $150,000. And that is for $50,000 for road improvements and $100,000 for cold mat and wedging. I would call for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the 150,000.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion, please? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And it passes unanimously with all members present.
Thank you, gentlemen.
A question, road work about ready to start, or?
I can only answer one question at a time.
Go ahead, John.
In our packet, we also have an additional, certified copy of additional appropriations, page 1. My question to Brandon was, does that need to be approved also?
No. Well, Jana will approve that. She will certify, correct? You certify the additional appropriation,
Yeah, I'll send it to the state.
Okay.
because
So
ultimately,
we need
ultimately the
no
state.
action on it.
The,
No, we shouldn't.
No, I don't think so. This one.
oh no, that was just to show the surplus funds that we have available.
Ultimately, the state has to approve this, correct?
Right, yeah. I'll
Ready to
use
start
that
road
form
work?
to submit to the
We are doing road work. I mean, as far as we're.
Not chip and seal yet?
No,
You guys keep
and we probably won't start chip and seal till after the
Because we
4th.
have to do a new, we need this to approve the
We've got
To approve what?
prep work to do.
Okay.
We've been
Because we need that.
cutting ditches,
for the appropriate.
berming, some culverts, and so probably after the 4th, we'll actually start doing chip seal. I would expect, depending on the weather, 6 to 8 weeks to complete about 104 miles of chip sealing.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
I lost my agenda, so bear with me. I just found it. Next on the agenda is the Commissioner's report, please.
Hey, short and sweet, I think, today, but I want to start with thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This man's done a marvelous job. When I first took this position, I still remember Commissioner Rethlake told us that we were going to do a state of the county at the big gathering at the hospital, and that I had to talk about the highway department. And we just weren't the cream of the crop at the time. So my statement was pretty short and simple. I said, in Whitley County, we have 760 miles of road, and most of them are pretty bad, and we're going to try to change that. So, thank you, because that's how it's going to happen. And I don't know if I've had more compliments this year on our roads than I've ever had in all the other years. So, I also just wanted to touch on that overtime. If you remember, our storms came this year on the weekends. Invariably, on the weekends, these guys had to go out and plow snow. So, anyway, thank you so much for supporting the highway department. I think we're really making some inroads there. Scott Wagner came before us to talk about a junk and trash extension. We've had a situation where we filed the junk and trash ordinance and hired a person to clean it up. They had not been doing, here was a problem. It was the successful bidder came in at like 10,000 and the next bid was like 40,000. So obviously we took the $10,000 bid. But they weren't getting the job done. So they came before us Monday and promised that within 7 days it would be done. He also talked to us about a swimming pool ordinance which got tabled. We don't have enough information on that. It's not every swimming pool, I apologize. It deals with public pools, any pool in which the public can go in and swim.
Does that splash pad qualify also?
I'm sorry.
Does the regulations on splash pad qualify?
You're the second person to ask me, Patty was the first one. And I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But shouldn't it? Because this deals with water samples and stuff.
Yes. So
Perhaps it should. You don't want your children out in some kind of bad water in a splash pad either, so I will check on that, John. Mary Hartman from the Peabody Public Library Board, I think Mary's probably going now, came to us asking us to reappoint Greg Hockemeyer to the Peabody Public Library Board, and we did that. If you see the last item on our agenda, if you notice that Vincent Simmers, Blue Lake Conservancy District, he did not come because I met with him earlier. And there's a lot of redundancy there. They're already getting in position, so I told him to talk to the people who were heading up the committee. We had a couple of requests for, y'all remember Phil Geiger's old station?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's being turned into some type of cafe, food giveaway. It was kind of complex, really. And they asked about using the parking lot across the street for, put up these little pavilions when they have a food giveaway deal.
Pop-up market.
Pop-up market, thank you. And we're looking into it. We just didn't really want to make a decision right then and there on that, so.
Don, has that ever passed IDEM as far as cleanup? That old gas station, has it ever been?
Oh, gosh, I don't have any idea. But I know how I can find out.
I was just curious.
Well, no, that's an interesting question because I just got an email the other day, and I'm sure all the commissioners did, from Region 3A. They have brownfield money, and they noted the locations in Whitley County of where there could be a problem, and I just don't know if it was on that list or not. I really don't.
Since they're doing food, I was just wondering if that place has
It
ever
is
went
not.
through that.
It's kind of an odd switch, isn't it?
I will say, I don't believe she's actually building a kitchen inside that facility. I believe she is actually doing the cooking out of a food truck, but don't quote me on that.
It wasn't very clear, really, at the time. That's kind of why we tabled it till we could get some more information. Because I question, on the other side is, and I'm not advocating this, but on the other side is the Linville parking. and very seldom used at that end. The fitness center's busy, but if she used that area, they wouldn't have to walk across the street. So I just mentioned it because we ended up tabling it, so. Did I hit the highlights? Yeah, thank you. Do you have a picture?
I can grab one.
Okay. We had another request, and that was from the I can't think of their exact name, Angie will get it for us. They came to us in a request form to use the alley out here for art fair and a couple of other things. And in their proposal was that sign that says County Road. We all agreed it's a beautiful picture, but we were just too leery of attaching one side to this building and the other side to the Ball Furniture building. It just, so the bottom line is we did not approve that structure. We're not saying if they come back with a different structure, we wouldn't approve it, but I think I can tell you that, are you familiar with the turret out there? That's what they call it, the round office on the second floor. The utility department, Plum City Utility Department said that they approved it if it was 18 foot high. And this, if you could look and measure, it's not 18 foot high. It appears if we go 18 foot high, now you're getting into the turret. And I think Mark Sturdivant's approach was, we really just don't need to put holes in this building. This building's just not old enough to put holes in. So essentially, we turned down the request to put the sign that way or put holes in our building. So thanks for.
I'm sure they can come up with a standalone sign or something.
Well, but man, to make it 18 foot tall,
I guess it's gonna be.
it's gonna be pretty tough.
No signature.
I don't want something that's flimsy and the wind's gonna take and, you know what I'm saying?
But they put billboards up.
What was the purpose of 18 foot? To get a fire truck through there?
Utility truck.
A utility truck?
Yeah, because, good question, because the utility lines run down there, so.
And those pillars, they pop out?
Signature on this one, but it goes
Well,
with it.
they were designed to pop
No
out. I
signature.
doubt if you and I
No
could go out and
signatures
lift
on
them up
this, it's
right
just
now.
part of that.
They've been in there so long, so, but that's what they are. They're designed to pop out in case of emergency, so. I think, we're gonna be upgrading the website to, again, make it more user-friendly. So we approved that one. I think that's about it. Any other questions?
I do have a question. You were talking about pool samples for a place that the public can go swimming. I know in years past, Kosciuszko, Winona Lake, had made it so that you could not swim in that lake because of the goose and duck population and the bacteria. So anytime you have a public beach even, would that not fall under needing to be, if they have a swimming area?
It'll take someone smarter than me, but I think when you start talking about lakes, I think you're talking DNR or IDEM.
DNR.
I think.
Okay.
But if you want to know, Scott Wagner can tell you, I guarantee you.
Any further questions of Don? Last item on the agenda then will be the minutes, and we do have a minute. We have minutes from the previous 2 months to pass, from the April 3rd, 2018, and also from March 6th. So we'll start with March 6th, 2018. Has everybody had a chance now at this time to review those minutes? And I would ask at this time, are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I call for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Right, second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 6, 2018, please respond by raising your right hand. And they passed unanimously by all members present. Brings us to the minutes for April 3rd of 2018. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes, and are there any additions or corrections, please? Hearing none, I would call for a motion. I have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All the members that approved the minutes for April 3rd, please respond by raising your right hand. Approved unanimously with all members present. Thank you. Councilman Barrett?
I have nothing. I compliment our clerk's office and the recent election yesterday, and they did a good job.
Councilman Overdeer?
Yeah, I'd like to say something a little bit on the lighter vein. How many of you knew Phil Geiger when he mentioned about that gas station? In about 1952, I was on a ammunition ship in the Mediterranean, and other ships would come alongside, we'd transfer ammunition to them, and we were a little higher in the water, and my little job was to shoot a line across, and then they kept pulling things back till it got it where it could work. Then I didn't have anything to do. I walked back and I looked down at that ship below us, and there's Phil Geiger sitting there reading a comic book. No,
That's pretty neat.
In 1962, Phil and John had the... Hancock had a dragster.
yeah.
And we went to the Nationals down in Indianapolis, and they had me weigh in the dragster because I was only like 120 pounds or something like that. So, yeah, that was my Phil story.
Didn't he end up breaking a leg in a...
You did, in a wreck.
But that was kind of an unusual situation, all those miles away in the middle of the
Yeah, absolutely.
Mediterranean Sea, and I see a guy went to school.
Yeah,
Yeah, Phil and I grew up together.
Yeah, you did.
good guy.
Councilman Bayman? Councilman LaRue? Councilman Wheeler?
Not at this time.
Councilman Dank?
No, sir.
And I have nothing else. We will adjourn the meeting.
Can I just say something real quick?
Absolutely. Come forward and introduce yourself and tell us who you represent.
I'll just stand and make it short and sweet. My name's Butch Sterner. I own SDS Communications, and I'm here representing Jody kinda because I just wanted to make the council aware of some of the responsibilities she's taken on regarding the phone system administration. For 7 years, she's been doing basic admin on the phones. There's over 400 of them countywide, not just at the jail, so. I would ask that you guys would consider that when you're considering her salary adjustment. She's saved you guys a lot of money over the years. She's been doing it for 7 years. We trained Amy, we trained Pam, but Jody's been doing it since day one. So, speak on her behalf on that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say in the audience? I'm sorry, I neglected the audience. I should have asked. Okay, now I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, guys.
I think there probably is some coffee left over there.
Now,